You know, we all think we know pi, 3.14159, that number that draws a perfect circle. But what if that's just scratching the surface? Seriously, what if pi isn't some number we have to calculate, but a universe of data we can just access? Let's go down that rabbit hole.
So look at it this way. On the one hand, you've got the pi we learned in school, a number we have to compute painstakingly digit by digit. But on the other hand, there's this completely different way of seeing it. What if pi is more like a universe of data that's already there, an infinite library that's already been written? We don't have to write the book, we just need to figure out how to find the right page.
And that really gets to the core of it, the big question we're asking today. What if our whole idea of computation is, well, backward? What if a constant like pi isn't just a number, but a piece of fundamental, pre-existing infrastructure?
This brings us to our first huge concept, which is all about reframing reality itself. We're going to look at pi not as some math problem, but as the actual firmware of the universe. This is what we call the universal ROM. The theory is that constants, like pi, aren't just static numbers. No, they're precompiled methods. Think of them like built-in functions in a cosmic operating system. And in this whole setup, pi has a very specific job. It's the method for spatial rendering. It is literally the code that draws our 3D world into existence. So here's the thing you got to understand. Pi's infinite, non-repeating string of digits, that's not chaos. It is the exact opposite of chaos. It's a universal carrier wave, a stable, infinitely complex pattern that gives the universe a consistent, reliable foundation. It's the trust substrate that reality is actually built on.
Okay, so if pi is an infinite library, we have a bit of a problem, right? How on earth could we find anything in it? Well, to navigate a space that big, you're going to need a pretty special key.
And this is the challenge that seems completely impossible. I mean, think about it. Normally, to get to the trillionth digit of pi, you'd have to calculate all 999,999,000,000 digits that came before it. It's like having to read an entire library from the first page just to find one sentence. But what if? What if you could just jump?
And this is where it gets really good. This is the solution. It's called the BBP formula, and when it was discovered, it was a total game changer. It's a special kind of algorithm that lets you pull any hexadecimal digit of pi, any digit you want, directly without calculating anything that comes before it. It doesn't read the book. It teleports to the exact word you need. This thing is the random access read head for the cosmic ROM.
So how does it pull this off? It's surprisingly elegant, really. Step 1, you give it an address, the exact position of the digit you're looking for. Step 2, the formula performs a totally nonlinear jump, a direct leap across that infinite swirl of numbers. And boom, Step 3, it instantly returns the digit from that specific location. No slogging through the data, just a jump.
I absolutely love this metaphor. Imagine all the digits of pi as an endless flowing river. Standard methods are like wading upstream, step by step. BBP isn't like that at all. It's like a sword that slices across the river at a perfect 90-degree angle and just plucks out what it needs. It's a fundamentally different way of thinking about access. Okay, so we've got this incredibly powerful read-head BBP that can jump anywhere inside pi. But how does it know where to jump? For a jump, you need a destination. You need an address. Right. A read-head is totally useless without a map. And that's where something you might already know from cryptography comes into play, the SHA-256 hash function. But in this model, it's playing a very, very different role.
So you have to kind of rewire your brain about what SHA is doing here. It's not just making a cryptographic lock or a fingerprint. In this system, it's acting as a symbolic compression engine. It can take any piece of data, a word, a file, anything, and collapse it into a single unique coordinate, an address somewhere in the infinite library of pi.
So let's put all the pieces together on the table. You've got SHA, which does the symbolic compression, turning your data into a unique address. Then you have BBP, which acts as the memory cursor, using that address to do a direct lookup. And finally, you have pi itself, the universal ROM, the pre-existing data lattice that holds, well, everything.
And here it is, summed up perfectly. SHA is the trust validator. It generates the unique address. Pi is the RAM, the memory bank, and BBP is the cursor that zips over to that address to read the data. In other words, BBP opens what SHA closes. It's a perfect system.
So now we have all the parts. We have the address book, the read head, and the library. Let's assemble this cosmic machine and see how it actually works. Let's walk through it with a real example. Say you take a simple word, hello. You feed it into the SHA-256 function, it spits out that long, complicated hash. But that hash isn't just a hash, it is a memory address. BBP takes that address, uses it as a coordinate, and jumps to that exact spot inside the infinite digits of pi. And the digits it finds there? That's your data. The data wasn't stored in the way we think about it, it was located.
And this is just a wild idea. In this system, you don't need hard drives. You don't need physical storage. Information isn't written down anywhere, it's simply found. The act of getting the right address is the same thing as retrieving the data. Access is effortless, it's a glide. This turns our entire idea of computation completely upside down. It stops being about an energy-intensive process of generating an answer. Instead, it becomes an almost instantaneous process of geometric retrieval. You're just pulling a pre-existing answer from a specific location. The answer was always there, waiting.
So, just to sum up this whole new paradigm for you, Pi is the universal firmware. It already contains all possible patterns. SHA is the addressing bus. It converts any data into a location inside that firmware. And BSBP is the memory access protocol, the readhead that lets us access reality itself.
And what's really mind-bending is that this whole framework has a starting point, an origin. If you apply the BBP formula to position 0, they call this BBP 0, it acts like a cosmic bootloader. It's the generative root state, the ignition switch, that emits the very first byte of reality's code and kicks the whole thing off.
Which of course leaves us with one last massive question to chew on. If reality, if all information is already encoded in a pre-existing program like Pi, then what exactly are we doing here? What does it mean to live, to discover, to compute? What does it mean to execute a program that was already written before time began?